The Pentagon's budget's more than China, India, Russia, United Kingdom, Saudi Arabia, Germany, France, Japan, and South Korea combined. We give our military almost $1 trillion a year. So where's the money go? Well, the answer is we don't know, and neither does the Pentagon. The Deputy Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin's number 2, was asked about this by comedian Jon Stewart, and she got all frazzled. Listen.
Do you feel like these are unfair questions of somebody within a department of that size and scope? Do you feel that it's somewhat unfair?
I think you have a particular thing you really want to talk about, and you're asking me other questions. But I don't think it's unfair to ask me about the audit. It's absolutely the case that the United States military should be able to pass an audit, and we've got to be on that pathway to get there.
But don't you think that that does speak to the larger point that we're trying to get at, which is good journalism uncovers corruption? And
okay, I mean, good journalism does uncover corruption, but I'm not sure these two things are linked. An audit is not.
But they are.
This is the second most powerful person in Biden's Defense Department, and she's a mess. The military almost never gets audited, but when they do, they fail with flying colors. Our military has only been audited 5 times, ever. And just last year, they failed their audit for the 5th time. The military is winless in audits and undefeated in world wars. But we haven't won one of those in a while. Maybe this is why. The Pentagon told the IRS they couldn't account for over 60% of their assets. That means weapons systems, buildings, funding. They either don't know where the money went, or they don't want to know. Or they do know where the money went, and they don't want us to know. Now, what would happen if you told the IRS, sorry, guys, I don't really know where more than half my income came from last year? Well, it'd probably go something like this.
Do you understand what an audit does and the degree to which it is linked to the question that you're asking?
The audit that they have in the military doesn't really look at whether or not there's efficacy. It's just whether they got delivered the thing that they ordered. And
that is any audit. That is any audit. That is true.
But generally, those audits aren't $400 billion for Raytheon and $1.7 trillion for a plane that doesn't seem to be doing. Like, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose these pieces.
Then please educate me on
sure.
What
so an audit is exactly what you just described,
yes.
which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit, or the fact that the DOD has not passed an audit, is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse.
So Biden's number 2 in the Defense Department is telling us, not knowing where over half of her budget goes isn't wasteful. And there's no fraud, nothing to see here. Minnie Madoff handles money better than the Pentagon.
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, I mean, this is not, look, I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to
I'm pretty
make
sure
that
I didn't cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went, like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for.
Well, we give the government almost $1 trillion a year to keep us safe, and they don't know where the money went. Someone's getting rich, and we can't even stop a spy balloon. Florida Senator Marco Rubio is the vice chair of the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he joins us now. Senator, do you have any idea where the money goes?
Well, you have the general idea of what they say where the money goes. We have a big problem in this country, and it's not just how the money's being spent. We actually are struggling to make these things. So it tells you that in addition to all this money that's being poured into the military, we have a military industrial base that's completely broken. I mean, it's one of the things that they haven't even told you. It's become so concentrated in the hands of 4 or 5 providers. There's really only 3 or 4 companies in the world that do this stuff. And that's been the case now for years. There's very little competition on these contracts. So they can virtually almost charge us anything they want. And the issue about not having the inventory, I actually heard that for the first time about a month and a half ago. I was stunned. I couldn't believe they couldn't account. Apparently, it isn't just like the inventory of where all the things that we bought are. It's in some cases is real estate holdings. You know, what areas are under the Department of Defense's control. I mean,
they lost track of the buildings they own.
Can you really spend $1 trillion a year and actually do it in a way that's effective? And by the way, across multiple branches, right? Because not just the Pentagon, it's all these different branches. But I would say one of the key things that we need to have an answer to is, not simply how the money's being spent, that's important and so forth, but are we spending it in the right? Does our needs for the country in any way reflect how the money's being spent? Whatever our military strategy is, the spending has to reflect that somehow.
Right. So, like,
and you can't know that without transparency.
So, right. So, if the Chinese float like a $100 balloon that's spying on us and we can't pop it, but we have $1 trillion F-35 plane that doesn't ever get off the ground, like, what good is that weapon system doing? Is it just making the defense contractors rich and not keeping us safe?
Yeah, I think it comes down to they approve. They say, okay, this is the platform. They put out a need. We need a need for a next generation fighter, right? They put out the bid. Maybe only 1 or 2 companies respond to it, and then you start building it. And oftentimes in the process of developing it, they'll come back and say, hey, this is going to cost more than we thought when we put that bid out. When we offered that bid, so we're going to have to increase the price. And then if you don't fund it or you don't pay for it, then it's like, oh, you're against national security or national defense. Right. So part of it really comes down to the fact there's only 4 or 5 companies that do this work. Without competition in any field, you're going to suffer both in quality and obviously in pricing.
Yeah, it's corrupt. So over the weekend, all I heard was China, Taiwan. I mean, are we on a collision course here? It seems like everyone's getting real upset about, everyone's getting real worked up about this Pacific situation. Are we even going to be able to calm this thing down, Senator?
Well, if we get in trouble there, apparently Macron doesn't want to help us. I don't know if you read that over the weekend, but he says that France and Europe should walk away from the United States, or save us a bunch of money, by the way. But look, that thing's going to get bad. I mean, there's no other way around it. I mean, there's no way we finish this decade without China trying to do something about Taiwan. I think they would prefer to do it without military, just have, Taiwan surrender. But we should stop pretending that we're not headed towards something there. We are. And I think it's important if they were to take Taiwan, it's just not just about the small little island off the coast of China. Okay, that gives them effective control over all of the Eastern Pacific or the East Asia. 70% of global commerce. I mean, they could literally just shut us down. They can just cramp down and close down our economy like COVID times 50. Yeah, it would be a strategic, major moment in world history, and not a good one for America.
Maybe you should be Secretary of State instead of Blinken, and you guys, because it seems like we're just throttling into war in the Pacific, and Blinken's out to lunch. I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, well, hopefully he's out to lunch somewhere in Asia then, because that's where we need to be focused on building these alliances with Japan, with South Korea, with all these countries that want to be helpful and have capacity. Japanese are actually very capable, the Australians as well. It doesn't have to be us alone. All these countries have an interest there, but we need to take that seriously. Look, I'm concerned about Joe Biden.
I take it seriously,
if I were the Chinese, if I were the Chinese and Joe Biden's the president, they're probably trying to figure out we need to do this while that guy's still there.
Yeah, I think Russia thought the same thing with Ukraine. Senator, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Subscribe to the Fox News YouTube channel to catch our nightly opens, stories that are changing the world and changing your life. From Tucker Carlson tonight.